I'm pleased to introduce to the show today Krishna Mohan. He's president of Genius Visionary Inc. Krishna has a deep grasp of the understanding of business through his extensive experience working in many industries, including manufacturing, consumer durables, and information technology. Over the last 20 years, he's worked with 3 Fortune 500 companies and several startup organizations focusing on sales, business development, and finance. His management style has been described as decisive and motivational, where success comes from a focused commitment to developing new businesses, cultivating relationships, training salespeople, and creating growth strategies. He's also had comprehensive involvement with startup operations and C-level negotiations, and he's the author of the best-selling book, Elite Real Estate Professionals. Krishna, welcome to the Go for Launch podcast.
Thank you, Brandon. That's really great, introduction. I'm excited to be part of your show.
Yeah, me too. Boy, I'm kind of nervous just because based on looking at your bio, you have done a lot of stuff. So I can't wait to get into it. But I always ask my guests, where are you in the world today?
Oh, I'm in Northern Virginia, DC Metro.
All right, well, stay inside. We're recording today where President-elect Joe Biden should be getting the official news of his presidency, but I think there's going to be a little protesting going on, so you
Right.
may want to stay indoors today.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
well, let's start by going back in time a little bit, Krishna, and explain
hmm
or describe your journey as an entrepreneur. You know, how you
Right.
got started in business.
Yeah. So I started my career in sales back in 1997. I was with this GE, and then I got intensive sales training, and I got opportunity to handle bigger responsibilities. I was running a state operation as a business manager, handling sales, receivables, inventory, everything, planning, and then hiring, managing teams, channel management. It's a lot of exposure to different facets of business functions. And then while I was working with them, I picked up a lot of skills. I was considered as the top sales guy in the country from a performance standpoint. But I was also very ambitious and hungry to grow. When I mean grow, I want to grow in terms of positions. I want to grow in terms of my knowledge, in terms of my always trying to go to the next level. So I realized that GE is a flat organization and I have very little chance to grow up. So then I have to look outside. So then I joined Whirlpool. I was running two states operations. This was, back in India. I was in India at the time, and I was again responsible for the entire operations of those two states. Sales was predominantly my focus. I was doing very, very well. I got to a point where I'm not learning, I'm not growing, so I just have to switch. Then I went to another company called Reliance Infocom. I was with them as a national key account manager handling their wireless division. I did that little less than in a year and realized that this is not the way for me to grow. I realized that I'm quickly reaching to a point where I'm not learning anything, or I'm reaching to a point where I think that and I need to grow. So then I came to US. I thought maybe going to US and then, going to school, getting MBA will help me to, learn things that probably I don't know. And then I went to school. I went to Wisconsin. I did my MBA in international business. And then I got back to Virginia and I joined an IT consulting company as a business development manager. I was there with them about 3 years. It was all great. It's more B2B sales environment, and I was helping on getting some of the projects, software application development and consulting. And then I got opportunity with another company into business analytics. I was there for 3 years, then moved on to another industry, data center design consulting industry. It's a global enterprise account manager kind of role. It was all exciting, and then I realized that I think if I develop the skills towards understanding financials, the balance sheets, cash flows, income statements, taxation, I saw that as one of the biggest blind spot
Mm.
for management professionals. See, most of these guys are good at everything, but not, but if you really get to those details, there is a challenge. So then I went to school again and I got my master's in finance. And I really want to challenge myself. And then at that point, then my confidence really increased. I have all these things with knowledge, education, everything. Then that's when I thought, okay, maybe I should start something of my own. And we started an IT company with a partner. We ran it for a couple of years, sold it for good. It was a great exit, and then I started, 2016, and then I was helping several startup companies through that process because I kind of became an expert in my game. I have a lot of things to offer, so at an independent capacity, I was helping a lot of small companies on growth and various other aspects. So then I started Genius Visionary, where I started management consulting as a practice, helping large organizations on various aspects like entity structuring, market expansion, growth. Mergers and acquisitions is one of the focus area. Within that, due diligence, compliance, feasibility studies, market research, valuations and exit strategies were some of the areas that we were helping companies. And then I realized the smaller business area is always a struggle. So we started a business coaching practice. It's called geniusbusinesscoach.com. We help these small companies on growth, revenue growth primarily. It's more result oriented. Help them to reach from point A to point B. And we have different levels and ways that we engage with them. And then we also started Genius Online Academy, where it is a DIY business coaching platform where small business owners can plug in and then just leverage the system and build $1 million company. And then added a few other services like helping business owners on funding financing. And we started geniusbusinesscredit.com, where we help business owners to build business credit based on EIN. So we kind of started this whole practice as a kind of one-stop shop where we can really help these business owners, entrepreneurs to really solve their some real problems, and then even help them to go to the next level. Yeah, so apart from that, I have a real estate, company where we are into multifamily investments, and then we also run a women fashion brand called Gifting Boutique. So these are some of the things that keeps me busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you're probably a pretty busy guy. And, going back, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, there's so much there, Krishna, where, first of all, you came from India to the United States.
Yeah.
That had to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
huge shift in
Yes.
mindset, language, all the cultural issues that you had to deal with. But you got your
Mm.
MBA, then you later got an master's in finance.
Fine.
What's
Hmm.
what's interesting to me though about that your story is that so many people work for small businesses for years and years, and they're always
Hmm.
hoping and looking
Right.
for that opportunity to get inside the big company like GE
Mm.
or
Hmm.
Whirlpool, right? You kind of
Right.
started there. So tell me
Yes.
about, because I've not been in one of those massive environments. Like I've
Right.
consulted
Right.
with some of these companies that have 60,000 plus employees and things like that. But it's different when you're a
Mm.
consultant and you go in a few days
Yes.
a week, whereas
Yes.
everybody else is like, grinding it out. What is that? Because now you're able to have the street
Mm.
credibility to say, I've been
Yes.
inside the buildings, I've worked at these big
Yes.
places, but I can tell you
Mm.
what they do right and I can tell you what they do
Yes.
wrong. So, what is it
Yes.
about big companies that
Mm.
ultimately
Mm.
you said, you know what, that's not for me. I want to go off
Mm.
and be my own
Yeah.
boss. What were
Right.
some of those factors that went into it for you to leave the
Yeah.
comfort of having
Hmm.
the big
Yes.
salary and the benefits?
Yes. Yes. That's a really great question, Brandon. So when you're in that monstrous size of companies, right? You are taken care. A lot of things are taken care. You don't need to worry about your paycheck. You don't need to worry about your benefits. All of those things are granted. Now, on the other side, from a work perspective, you're also having a lot of systems in place. You're not really trying to figure out the processes or systems and the way you have to do things. They're already there. You are a
Mm,
player.
yeah.
You're going there. You got to do what you got to do, and you got to be good at what you got to do to be part of that big system. Because you cannot be average and be in those environments. These companies are successful for a reason, because of the quality of the people they hire.
Hmm.
So that puts you under pressure. There's an expectation from you. You have to be the best. You have to do very well in whatever you do, because if you don't do well, chances are that they will let you go.
Mm,
So that is number one. Number two is, um, you get a chance to learn everything from the best of the best. So if you're hungry, if you're a person who is really passionate about building your career or something, it's a great place to start, great place to learn. It's great, learnings, because you already your takeoff is at that level, so you already know what it really takes to be at that level. Now, on the negatives, which I saw, is that you really don't know what happens at the ground.
mm,
That's the thing. You really don't know what happens when I'm starting my company, what it really takes for me to get that company to $10 million. You don't know when you're in these corporate environments. You really have no clue about. You're
explain.
talking
Yeah.
about multi.
Talk
You're
about that a
talking
little
about
bit more.
multi-million dollars
Yeah.
sitting at that level. I close multi-million dollars, but I really don't know what it takes to make $300,000.
Mm,
I did not realize at the time. I don't know what I don't know.
right.
So that's because I come from there to bottom. So what that means is that you're dealing with people at C-level executives. You're dealing with people who are like really crushing in their games. Even if you're dealing with vendors, you're really dealing with any other stakeholders. You're dealing with companies $300 million size, $400 million size. So you really don't know what happens at the ground level.
Mm,
um, if you want to know, like now when I came back to start my own, I want to know those things.
right.
Anybody who's starting a business, they want to know those things. But the bureaucracy in terms of the decision maker, that's one challenge that I said. I will answer in terms of why I felt that the need for that, because if you know those things, then you will be in a much better position to even help the smaller vendors when you're in a bigger company. If I have that understanding what it takes to build a company, my perspectives would be very different, even as a corporate executive.
Mm,
Assuming that I'm still at that management role in the $1 billion company, the way I deal with my vendors would change. The way I hire my vendors would change. The way I deal with a lot of other stakeholders would change, because of my own understanding about what it takes for them to even build that $5 million company.
yeah. I mean, let me jump in there and say, as a small business, I've seen that
Yeah, yeah,
that dichotomy, if you will, where somebody sitting in the cush corporate environment doesn't really
yeah.
understand the challenges of the small business person.
No,
So, to
they
them,
don't.
with
Yeah,
their 60 or 90-day pay structure, for example,
yeah,
that doesn't
yes,
work for me. If
no,
I'm doing work for you, I expect to get paid within 30 days. And a lot of times, these big companies are like, nope, our policy is 60 days. So if you want to work with us, take it or leave it. And that
take it out.
really, that hurts the small business person.
Yeah,
But if,
it
yeah,
goes back to the choices, right? Like as a big company, I have choices. Number one. So why is it that these guys are pretty strict? One is that they're not taking care of your interest.
mm-hmm,
They really don't know what it takes for you to wait 90 days to get your payment. They really don't have a concept of that.
right,
Number two, what they also may be assuming, I'm still thinking assuming, because they have corporate credit. You don't have business credit.
right,
They may be assuming that somehow you can get it some kind of a credit for you from wherever you're manufacturing or sourcing, or even working with your bank or something. But that's not real. That's
mm,
not happening. Nobody is giving that leverage for you. At the best, you may get net 30, but you still have to handle that net 90 with your big companies.
yeah,
So they don't, because as a large company, they have that leverage. They have the negotiating power. They can go to other larger suppliers and get those terms. But the smaller suppliers, they struggle. It is what it is.
So do you
It,
get a
it
lot?
is.
Yeah, do you get a lot of the smaller clients that you work with just coming to you, kind of throwing themselves at your mercy, saying, "Look, I am just
Yes.
dying. Every day
Yes.
is a
Yes.
struggle. I have to get up. It's a massive grind.
Yes.
It's a hamster wheel. I can't get off. What do I do, Krishna? How do I compete with the big guys and the big
So,
girls? Who have
yeah,
all the resources and can take it. A big giant company during COVID, for example, they can make it because they have the financial cushioning. They can,
yes,
they
yes,
have the infrastructure, they have all that stuff in place. But the
yeah,
smaller businesses out here a lot of
yeah.
us are struggling.
So my recommendation for smaller businesses to answer that question would be twofold, right? Number one, understand the dynamics these larger companies operate, right? Sometimes we, from their perspective, they need to create exception to allow the small business owners under different terms, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes they may be accepting, they may not be accepting, until and unless you're bringing something unique to the table, whatever you're offering, they can do those exceptions. Now, what is the solution? The solution, what I may suggest is if you're working, if you're trying to be a prime vendor for these large companies, try to become a tier two vendor.
Okay.
Sometimes that's a solution because from a smaller business owner perspective, I don't see small business owners are thinking like that.
Explain a little bit more of that
So I will explain,
concept
right?
to
Like
somebody who doesn't understand the tiers and
I'm
stuff.
let's assume you're a small business owner. Your size of the company is you have like 6, 7 employees. Your gross revenues are about $3 million size. You have some decent product or a service that you think you can really can go and offer to $1 billion company, right?
Hmm.
And you have the list of 20 companies that you're targeting. In an ideal world, if you can get a couple of them, your revenues can go to $5 million.
Mm.
So you keep pitching to these guys one way or other. You have your sales pitch, you are doing everything possible. You're willing to give demos, you're willing to do POCs, you're willing to give them for testing and trying and everything. And eventually you may have, one or two companies show interest.
Hmm.
Now you get back to the contractual terms. Okay, here is the document. Oh, this is such a tedious process. When you look at the document, man, I don't fulfill 20 of their terms. I'm
Mm.
not even close to, I don't even have the right insurance to even bid into this.
Right.
If you really get to the granular details, everything is set up against me. It's almost like that.
Hmm.
So now I go back and start, seeing what can I do one by one. And maybe I can fulfill 3 of them, but I still cannot handle this 15 terms.
Mm.
How do I do that? So that's how. So then you negotiate, and then finally it boils down to some 2, 3 terms that they cannot, let go. They will be okay, with all other terms. You negotiate, everything happens. So what do we do now? Your critical part is your payment terms. Net 90, you can't afford to do that.
Hmm.
So that's a situation, right? So now you cannot do anything. What I would suggest is that even you compromise on your margins, find out the companies you are already set up with this process. Like there is this company who are already prime vendors for this company. They may be in the similar industry. They may not be offering the same product or same service. They may be the same industry.
Hmm.
Then I talk to them and say, hey, this client needs my offering. You guys are already set up with that. Why don't we sub with you
Mm.
and then go work with the same client? If my client is offering $100 to you guys, let's come to some understanding. You offer me whatever, $85 or $70 or $60. So my margins have come down,
Hmm.
but I'm still working with the client.
Got it. So you can put
Getting
them on your
getting
resume. Yeah, but
getting
you're
getting getting away with other terms, which I
got it.
cannot fulfill anyways. So
Yeah,
they,
because
so it
because
is
in
what
your
it is.
in your experience, those bigger companies, they're not willing to budge after a certain point. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying, right?
yeah, they'll put their foot down because see, at the end of the day, I could be a VP, I could be anybody, but I'm an employee.
Right.
But you can be a mom and pop shop owner, or you could be an entrepreneur, but the buck stops at you. You decide. I am still an employee. So
Mm.
I have to go by the rules.
Right.
You can decide your own rules because you are the boss in your company. So that's the difference. We need to see where we both are when we are talking together. So I may say that, Brandon, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to do everything, but I have my
Yeah.
limitation. This
Yeah.
is
There's
the
only
best I could.
right.
But in your case, you can decide anything you want because you're the boss.
Yeah.
So that's where it boils. We need to understand those dynamics. You cannot really put them in an uncomfortable situation beyond a point. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of think about the, Darwin's survival of the fittest concept, right? And the longer I live, it seems that these big behemoth companies just keep getting bigger and bigger. They keep growing by acquisition, and you see a lot of consolidation in every industry, right? Whether it's
Mm.
retail and restaurant space or all the way up to IT companies like Apple and, Google and so forth. How does the small business still survive, or do you see a parallel path where there's going to be success for both tracks at a
A-
certain level?
Absolutely. Again, as I said, you need to understand the psychology of the way these things work, right? Like I said, if you understand these dynamics, what's in it for you? What are your motives? What's your motive? What's their motive? If you really understand those things, then there is always a way. If we are stuck up with my company, if I'm stuck up with my product, if I'm stuck up with my pricing, services, and everything, then my mind is not thinking like that. You need to understand where these big companies are coming from. See, the only choice for you is to become big and play the game by their rules.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can you become big? You could go and look for the companies, in your space, in your domain, right? Who are really struggling, and then maybe you can merge with them, maybe you can acquire them.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible on terms. There are smaller businesses, they're all day long struggling. They don't know acquisition is an options. Many of them think they can shut down their doors. If something doesn't work, they close their doors, they move on. They may have a list of 20 customers that are your ideal clients.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
I know a lot
that's
of
yep.
I know a lot of small businesses. They have great clients, but they don't do nothing with them.
Mm.
Why? Because they don't have anything to offer that the client needs.
Mm.
So there is other company who are having exceptionally great product. They have zero clients,
Right.
and they're struggling to get their first client. But how about these two guys pick each other?
Yeah, that is a great option. In my experience, that can be challenging because typically, if you're having one firm talk to another, one's better than the other one for what whether they're either more profitable or, like you said, one has many more customers or whatever. But it could be that the smaller one without the most customers has the most expertise. So there might be an interesting imbalance there where, hey, these big guys over here need more talent, and here's the talent we can acquire and become stronger, and
Yes,
make it
yes.
work. But
So
it's a
what I
yeah.
observed,
What do you
Brandon,
observe? Yeah.
before I forget this thought, is that smaller business owners generally do not think acquisitions or mergers or partnerships as an option.
They just don't
They
don't think
they're
about
generally they try to think of revenues. Generally, they try to think of customers,
it.
new customers. Generally, they try to you know get get new sales,
Yeah,
and
because I think
they think that's the way they can grow. But
right.
that's not the only way.
But I think the reason, Christian, is a lot of people perceive mergers and acquisitions. Oh, I need a bunch of money. Like if I come to you and say, hey,
Yes, yes.
I like to think about merging and buying you, it might cost me millions of dollars, but in case it might be much less, right? And you
So
mentioned
it's
terms. You can work
so
out terms.
in the previous example that I was quoting, you can do a barter system.
Mm,
I bring my clients, you get your product.
mm-hmm,
Where is the money involved here? We're not talking about money. So together we are a monster.
mm.
alone we are weak. So money is not the only reason acquisitions happen. If you really look at it, if you really get into the details of the way things happen, um, people don't sell businesses for money. People sell businesses if they think that they like you, they think that you're capable, that you have reputation, that you have the wherewithal to manage the business, that you don't mess up with my employees
Mm-hmm.
after you acquire, that you don't mess up with my brand, that you continue my legacy, and that I think that you and I can work on some terms that are workable for me. That's
Right.
it. If
That
you understand if you understand that part, you will be able to go and acquire companies under $10 million easy.
got it.
That's it. That's how it works.
So, are you suggesting, Krishna, at some level, many small businesses to survive are going to have to stop going it alone and just being like,
Yes.
completely
Yes.
adamant about that and being more open minded to partnering? I like your idea of
Yeah.
the tier two partnerships, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Like if I were to go to a big ad
Yep.
agency or something and say, look, I'm good at these things. If you're working with
Mm-hmm.
your big X company over here and you need
Mm-hmm.
resources, don't hire somebody full time, hire me and I'll
Yeah.
do it under you and we all
Right.
win, right? So those are
Absolutely.
two good things
Absolutely.
to think about. Excellent.
They're too good and then thereby you can add more such tier one vendors. What happens if you're once you're open with that, all of a sudden you will see a new world out there
Yeah.
because the same 20 list of these $20 billion companies, if you look at each company has 10 or 15 sub vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Each company has 10, 15 vendors. Now they become your options because you want to become tier two. It's relatively easy for you to be partnering with them than this one big company. And then now that you have options of 4 or 5 companies, all of a sudden you have business from 4 or 5 clients.
Yeah, that's very powerful advice because I think hopefully somebody listening is taking this
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
That instead of beating your head against the wall until your forehead is bloody, thinking I'll never get business directly with the giant
yeah,
corporation, figure out who they're already working with and go
yeah,
there. Right. So
yeah,
that's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. So
sure.
let me ask you a couple other questions as we're wrapping up. What should people look for, Krishna, in a business coach when they're hiring one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what they need to look for, from my perspective, is that they need to look at their track record, right? Have they run businesses on their own? Have they started businesses on their own? Have they helped anybody from my background? Like if I'm hiring you as a coach, I want you to know a little bit about my industry. I want you to have a little understanding about my situation. Like I'm a $2 million company, so you need to. Did you ever work with a company which is around that size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, did you by yourself have shown that level of growth? If you're going to help me to go to $3 million, have you done that? Can I know, can I see that? Can I know which company is that, which industry is that? So I go straight to the point, which is their track record, their their own ability to run businesses. um, I also feel their credentials, their own credibility, their own background does matter. Just need to look beyond what they offer. Like anybody can become a life coach. You
Right.
need to go back and look at their life. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's
uh,
great.
Most
Yeah,
likely
because
you won't talk to them. Once, just if you take one more step, the discussion is closed.
yeah, there are tons of coaches, like you said, life coaches, business coaches, etc. And in my field, marketers. There's marketing people are a
Oh
dime
man.
a dime a
Yeah.
dozen, right? Everybody's a
Yeah.
digital marketer these days because they have a Facebook account or whatever. So it's challenging to be differentiated and to provide that value. But like you said, you have to put in the work, you have to get the degrees, you have to do the jobs and have that credibility like you have, Krishna,
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to say, been there, done that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything you want to share that I haven't asked about directly?
um so What I think is missing is that any tips that that might help the small business owners right now, like with
Yeah.
this last year,
Oh yeah. Brutal year for
this
so many.
brutal years, right? What I recommend for small business owners is that one, they need to think out of the box, just like the way I'm explaining to you. Don't look at selling is the only way to get your revenues and grow your company.
Hmm.
Look at top talent. There's talent available for for very less price. As a matter of fact, look for talent.
Hmm.
Look for partnerships. People are more open now. Their openness is also more right now for partnerships,
Mm.
just because the world has become a level playing field,
Yes.
right? Because the way you interact with your prospect has changed. The way you interact with everything has changed. It became a virtual world. So I see that more, openness and people willing to partner with others has increased. Look at that. Look at, you know, acquisition possibilities. If they're scared with the word acquisitions, look at, you know, partnering or merging with other smaller companies, and together you become a force.
Yeah, let's call it tag teaming, right? Let's tag team
Yes.
and do some stuff. And then, hey, you know what? If you do a couple of those deals with somebody, maybe you look at each other months down the road and go, we should just partner up and make it official,
Yeah.
right?
And I would also suggest that they need to focus on building business credit, going back to your 90-day terms, right? Once they have that
Yes.
in place, they'll be ready when things really kind of open up, or however way the economy goes during the next few years. Because having the strong financial foundation for the company, I think, is the most important thing for the company.
Right.
The most important thing, because as business owners, we are so much concerned about product, my offering, my clients, my business, my revenues, but I'm neglecting my financial foundation. That's the very thing that you're doing everything.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and the most businesses fail for that reason. They can focus on that, and then I have an exclusive interview on how to do that. If somebody wants, they can go and check out my website, which is geniusbusinesscredit.com, or they can reach out to me directly through email, which is krishna at geniusbusinesscoach.com. I'll be happy to share some information on all the things that I'm talking about, or I can even guide them. I can give a free consultation to really handle their current situation. At least I can guide them what to do for them.
Outstanding. Well, thanks for that offer. Anybody listening, hopefully that
Yeah,
is in this position, take Krishna up on his offer
yeah,
and give him a call,
yeah,
send him an
yeah,
email, and have
yeah.
that conversation. I've talked to so many people like Devin Miller before, IP lawyer, who is available to talk to you for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever for free. So take
Yes.
advantage of this because Krishna has an amazing amount of experience here, especially with the stuff you're talking about, developing
Mm.
that business credit. I've been there and I've had those issues in the past where you go to the bank and they're like, we're not giving you a dime because we don't see this or that. And you're like,
Yeah.
wait, what? What do we need to do to be able to get a
Hmm.
line of credit? So
Exactly.
nowadays it is so much harder, than it was even
Yes.
10 years ago just to get something simple like a line of credit. However,
Yes.
there are alternates out there. They're,
Yes.
factoring things online and stuff like that,
Yes.
but they
Yes.
can charge you an arm and a leg. So you got to be prepared. It's like running
Yes.
up your credit card bills, right? But
Yes.
Krista,
Yes.
thank you so much for all of your advice and counsel today. This has been outstanding. I'm going to go back and take some notes myself, and wish you all the best for a prosperous 2021 as we move forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Wish you a very happy new year and prosperous year ahead.